Hi guys, and welcome to the second gameplay video of Grand Tactician, the Civil War Battles. It's still a pre-alpha gameplay video, so everything seen or heard can still change during the development. And this time the scenario we're looking at is based on Battle of Perryville in Perryville, Kentucky in October of '62. But instead of going through the historical battle and what happened in the actual battle, we have a custom-made battle here, and in it I can explain something about the campaign mechanics and the transition to battle layer from campaign. First of all, on the screen you can see these red deployment areas. We have one in the northeast corner and also a troop coming from the east. And when troops collide on the campaign map, the troops have readiness rating, and this is describing how ready for combat troops are, for example if they're deployed for defense or on the move. And these readiness ratings are now compared between the armies, and the army which is more ready will have the chance to deploy beforehand deeper into the battle map. So for example in this scenario we have one troop, the Hardy's left wing, with higher readiness, and as you can see from the map they can deploy all the way to the Crawford area. And the right wing under Polk is with lower readiness, and they're still arriving from the entry point on the northeast corner of the map. And against us we have Army of the Ohio under Buell, and as this is not the historical battle but scenario based on it, we can be sure that the dynamic AI running Buell's army will not act the same way as Buell actually did in the Battle of Perryville on 8th of October '62. Okay, so when the units engage on the campaign layer, then you can enter the battle, and first off you will have a deployment phase, and here you can deploy the troops that have already arrived on the battlefield, and depending on the readiness you could deploy them a bit deeper on the map. During the deployment phase, if you've got engineers in your army and you have the required readiness, you can also build entrenchments during the time that you have to deploy. So for example we could move Hardy and the left wing closer to Perryville here, and on the lower right corner we have engineering points, which is counted from the engineering units and the time available. And with these points we can in this pre-battle deployment we can build entrenchments on the battlefield. And as you can see it's also raining, so this is showcasing the dynamic weather system we have in the game. This scenario starts with heavy rain, and soon the weather might change. But from the build menu we have the possibility to build breastworks and parapets, or basically trenches like we say nowadays. And these can be built with the limit of engineering points on the deployment area, which is highlighted with red here. So if we take a look at the map, in case we have to retreat or withdraw in this battle to the east side of Perryville, we could prepare some entrenchments on this side, so those could be good positions to fall back to. And just to showcase this feature, let me build some parapets here. For example, on this forest line, we could build a parapet like that. You can have curves in it, like you can see. And once built, it's also possible, if you have the engineering points, to upgrade it multiple times. So the first level is just a simple trench or the earthworks. If you upgrade it one time, you get the reinforcements there with the firing slits, so it provides way better protection and also concealment. Upgrade one more time, you get a battis in front, which will slow down the enemy movement, and one more upgrade and you will have these spiked obstacles that also slow down the enemy movement. In case of breastworks, it's a more simple log barricade, which can be quickly erected and provides some cover and some concealment. And the difference between trenches and breastworks is that you can also construct these breastworks during the gameplay when fighting is going on. And trenches can only be built during the deployment phase, which happens before the battle, and also between days if you're playing a multi-day battle. In this battle I have given a substantial amount of engineering points, so I can showcase this system for you guys. And now you can see that I have expended them, and I have quite good entrance positions here on the east side of Chaplin River. So here we got the trenches, and here we got the breastworks. And we shall use these for the fallback if the need be. Also during the deployment phase, you could give the first orders to the units to start the movement. So for example, if we take a look at the order of battle of the Army of the Mississippi, we see that we got 2 cavalry units. We got brigade on the Wharton on the right wing, and then we got a brigade on the Wheeler on the left wing. And for example, the Wheeler's brigade, I could deploy it already closer to the flank and give it a movement order, for example, to move all the way to this Widow Hope's house. And in case of these pre-battle orders, they will be carried out without any order delays. So the delays that happen when you start the real-time play, they don't count here. Okay, let's take another look here in the reports. This is basically the headquarters view. Here you have the paperwork prepared by the headquarters staff. This is the briefing, which explains the situation we are now. So we should be facing Don Carlos Buell with strength of some 19,000 men and 42 guns. We have information that the enemy army is green and the morale is reported to be determined, and their supply situation is mediocre, and our supply state is currently acceptable. And on the left hand side we have some historical information about Kirby Smith, who was supposed to join the Battle of Perryville but did not, because he was basically chasing ghosts with Sill outside the battlefield. Then we have the list of objectives with the completion. So most of these objectives are incomplete. And then we have the consolidated report forms for overview, condition, strength, combat, and commanders. So, for example, we can see from the Consolidated Strength Report that we have some 18,500 men deployed in the two wings, right and left wing, and if we go through the left wing, we see two divisions there, one brigade which is the cavalry brigade, and the strength of each unit. And during the combat we will see also the casualties, any combat victories, and the condition, for example, in which condition the men, the horses, the guns are, how much do we have supplies, and so on. But let's take a closer look at the reports when the battle has been fought for some time. And taking a closer look at the order of battle, we have two wings, which are basically corps level organizations. In total we have 3 divisions with 4 infantry brigades in each, and also the accompanying artillery and the 2 before mentioned cavalry units. And the total strength under Braxton Bragg is some 80,500, and our reports indicate that Buell has some 19,000 men, and perhaps some reinforcements also arriving in the battle. So for the time being, due to the readiness, we have slight upper hand, but maybe during the battle the balance will go for the Union side. Then moving on from the deployment phase to the battle phase. Here, of course, the idea is to construct some sort of plan to defeat the enemy, and we know Union is deployed somewhere here in the west, and in this scenario we got the left wing deployed here close to the town of Perryville, where we build all these entrenchments, and the right wing is still arriving here, so we basically need to march them and join the forces somewhere here in the middle. And in this game it's quite important to try to keep the distance between troops to minimum because of the order delay mechanics. So for example, now we have Bragg here with Polk's wing, so if we now start to give Hardy's wing orders, these orders will take a lot of time because all the orders will arrive via couriers from Bethel Church all the way to Crawford area, which is, if you look at the map scale, it's some at least 3 miles. So the first thing we want to do is to move Polk's corps closer to the left wing, so let's give them orders to move here. And for the time being we can keep Hardy's wing waiting here, and for the upcoming battle let me deploy them in single line formation. The weather is quite heavy rain, as the tooltips tells us here. Everyone is miserable, the roads and fields quickly turn into mud, and it makes marching exhausting. The wagons get stuck, but the good thing is that smoke and dust will not be that big a problem because of the wet weather. But this could also mean that it takes quite a lot of time for Polk to reach the left wing here near Perryville, and during this time it is possible that Buell starts pushing forwards. And for this reason I'm going to detach my cavalry units First of all, Wheeler, who already has the order to move to the left flank. I shall detach him. And the other one is Wharton. Detach that unit. And what it means to detach a unit is that it will operate independently from there on. So, for example, Wheeler's cavalry unit belongs to Hardy's wing, but if I detach him and give Hardy orders, the orders will not be carried out by Wheeler. And when we start the real-time gameplay, we can see that the orders are already flowing in from Brack to the left wing. It will take some time for them to actually deploy themselves to the desired formation. But it's a totally different story with Polk, who's closer to Brack, and he's already receiving the orders and distributing them forwards to Cheatham. And Cheatham already got his troops moving. And because of the rain, we see no dust clouds forming up from marching on the gravel roads or mud roads. A few players or followers have been asking about the on-map information layer. You can see here the fire range cones and the order or command lines and command radius. Indeed, these can be turned off from tools where we have the filters. So, for example, turning off the ranges, the cones are no longer seen. Then each unit has the icon that offers the tooltip. Those can also be switched off. If we switch off routes, only the route of the selected unit is shown. And if we turn off commander information, we further tidy the view, so basically we only see which unit is selected and its route. And like said in the beginning of the video, this is still pre-alpha version of the game, so the filters as well will see some changes in the future. But for now, let's keep command information and icons visible so we can observe the flowing of the orders. Okay, so now we got a Wharton detached. We can use him independently, so let's start moving him forward all the way across Chaplin River. The area mark is die here. Soon he should be on his way. And here we already see that Wharton's cavalry is moving out and heading for the left flank. And here, while we are waiting for the units to move, we can also take a look at the commander information. So each commander has his own personal attributes. So for example, Joseph Wheeler here is a colonel, age of 26. His fame is quite renowned. He's aggressive. His leadership methods is distinguished. He's a mediocre administrator and quite cunning commander. He's a professional officer and also has combat experience before the Civil War. And then under the portrait we have the experience stars. In this case, Wheeler is battle experienced officer. All these attributes have effect in battle and also in the campaign. So for example, the level of initiative means that if it's high, orders take shorter time to obey and distribute. depending on administration status. When the day ends, good administrators get supplies distributed faster and more effectively, and so on. And in case there's famous officers with personalities that don't really match, it's possible that the officers will have a feud between each other, and this will of course cause trouble for the player. For example, in comparison, William Hardy, commander of the left flank, his initiative rating is cautious, and administration level is quite high, so we can count on him to get the supplies distributed, get his troops properly drilled and so on, but probably not going to take huge risks. And before we start out giving orders to both of the wings, as we have only 3 divisions, it's a good idea to assemble some sort of general reserve, and in this case I will take it from the left wing. So let's detach Palmer's artillery. Then let's use Adams' infantry brigade with some 1,700 troops, and another smaller brigade from Buckner's division. And these 3 units we can use as the reserve and deploy on the east side to the entrenchments we have built during the pre-battle deployment. And we can use these to react to any enemy threats. Adams' brigade here, another topic we haven't discussed yet is the unit special training. And on the left hand side of the weapon we can see that Adams' brigade has sharpshooter training level 2, and this means that the brigade will be very effective in long range firefights, and for example for skirmishing duties it will be quite effective. And depending on the training and experience of each unit, it can be given special training, and this is limited on the campaign layer, so you cannot have unlimited amount of sharpshooters, for example, but only in a selected few units. So these units with the special training will remain quite unique, and they will have their uses during the campaign. And for example, for Thomas Jones's brigade I have given engineering training, so that allowed us to build these entrenchments in the start of the battle. And the units should now be detached, so we can deploy them in the entrenchments like that. Let's put here in barricades, and now that they're detached, if I give order to the rest of the brigade, the order will not be delivered for the detached units. Okay, almost an hour has passed, and it has taken quite a long time for Chetham's division to march on the road to link up with the left wing, but in this weather it's quite understandable. And I think it's time for us to start thinking about the battle plan. So let's pause the game. And a few players have been asking about the previous videos and the dev blogs about the game pace, because it's a real-time game. I think so far you have seen that things don't happen really quickly, so in this game you really have to think ahead and give good orders instead of having a quick mouse hand, like they say, with some other real-time games. Okay, so if the enemy is somewhere here in the west, and currently we estimate that we are evenly matched, so the armies are quite strong, and with the exception of the Union Army being green, so not veterans like ours, it could be a good idea to try to be aggressive and active before the enemy receives more reinforcements, and try to attack him and eat him piecemeal before his forces can join here somewhere in the battlefield. So let's start pushing troops forward with Hardy's wing, minus the detached units, which are the reserve. Let's start pushing forward to bottom hill here. And Wharton has already reconnoitered the route to objective called Dice, so we can push him even further forward. Let's put him here on the Peters Hill to observe if there's any enemy movement on Springfield Pike, which is the main route through the area to Danville. So their order is to move forward. We use them as a cavalry screen of scouts, and then we use Cheatham also to move forward further to this area, so they will join forces with Hardy, and when the two wings are joined, we have quite good fighting force to use against the enemy. Okay, and it's 9:30 already. Our cavalry screen has moved forward. Wheeler is already deployed here near Widow's Hope. And a good idea with cavalry is to use them dismounted in case of screening. So let's dismount Wheeler. And also deploy them in loose order, which is similar to infantry skirmish order. And in this formation they will of course be a bit more effective with their ranged weapons, but at the same time suffer less casualties due to fire. And Wharton has already reached Springfield Pike, also let's dismount him. And deploy the open order to overwatch the road. And for the main body of the army, we can see that they're already moving, not yet crossed Chaplin River. We got left wing moving in front and right wing following and taking then the right turn at this Crawford ford to deploy to the right side of the left wing. And the reserve is quite happily sitting here in the barricades and trenches. And because of the cover provided by the entrenchments, they could be quite difficult to push away from these defensive positions. And again, it's time to speed up a bit because things take time. Okay, it looks like Wharton has the first contact with enemies. It looks like some headquarter unit and artillery moving on the Springfield Pike. So good thing to have the cavalry here overwatching the situation. And of course, if the enemy observes the cavalry being on this hill, they will most likely react somehow, so they will also win us some time for the main body to reach the area. So let's keep them for the time being on this area to observe the enemy movements. And welcome back. It's already past 10 and we can see the rain has ceased and the visibility has improved a lot, and it looks like we have enemy artillery and infantry arriving from the west, and we have Wharton's brigade already under enemy artillery barrage, but it also looks like the enemy is deploying his troops to counter the threat posed by Wharton's brigade, so he's doing his job well now. Let's keep him there. And we also received dispatch from Hardy that his scouts have brought information about McCook joining the battlefield with a corps of some 13,000 infantry, maybe 40 guns. So basically what this means is that soon the enemy will be reinforced. And it will of course take quite a lot of time for him to get to the battle area, so it could still be possible to use these two wings we have to attack the enemy and defeat this part of the enemy who is moving through Springfield Pike and Peters Hill before McCook reaches the area. So let's try that. Already we have some light engagement going on with probably some hidden enemy skirmishers opening up on Wharton here, and the enemy artillery barrage firing as well, so I think it's a good idea to mount up and pull them back a bit, not to sacrifice them because our main body is already reaching Bottom Hill. So let's bring Wharton back to this location and then task him with some other mission. Here we have Buckner's division. Marching and playing some cheerful tunes. And as Wharton will be the first division combat ready on Bottom Hill, I think we should use them to stop the enemy onslaught on Springfield Pike and push him forward. The other division in Hardy's wing is Anderson's division. It looks like they're still crossing Chaplin River. Also Cheatham is still crossing Chaplin River with the tired divisions still marching to the fords. So it will take some time for them to be ready to fight the enemy. And unfortunately it looks like before Wharton received his order to fall back, he has been dealt with some damage and is routed. That's one problem with pushing units far from the main body, is that because they're alone operating without support of their commanders, the morale will be a bit lower, and like in this case it's quite possible that they break before they otherwise would. So we lost the ice here. We see at least some infantry and artillery already crossing Doctor's Creek moving further east. Let's wait for the units to move. And at this point, leaving the reserve so far back is probably not so smart, so let's move them a bit further. Also crossing the Doctor's Creek, taking defensive positions, for example here around Perryville. So artillery to move there into position. Also one infantry unit to take position there. And the other infantry unit here behind the field works. With that we can, for example, occupy some of the houses here. And it's in the game it's possible to take positions inside buildings with infantry. Just like happened in Fredericksburg, for example. So they will occupy these houses, and from the houses they could observe a bit further the enemy movements and use the buildings for cover. And now that we have Buckner's division minus the artillery, which is still moving to position, let's start giving the orders to Hardy's wing. So in case of Buckner, with him we want to stop any enemy advance via Springfield Pike. So let's give them orders to defend. And when giving a stance means that you hand the division or a corps to AI control, but it will not operate fully independently, but it will carry out orders according to what the player is giving, so or the AI is giving. So in this case, as I order him to defend, I also will order him the area where to move and where to defend. And in case Buckner runs into any enemies on the way, he will start carrying out his orders, which are to defend. Okay, so the order has been given. Let's move Buckner to Peters Hill. There's a good covered position in these woods. And while orders are being distributed to Buckner, we've got Anderson deploying on his left. And later on we can decide what to do with him, but the basic thing of course would be to use Buckner as a anvil in Peters Hill, and then Anderson to attack the enemy flank, trying to turn it, in this case from the left, because on the right we have Doctor's Creek with only a couple of fording locations, so it's a actual obstacle on our right. Okay, so Buckner is now moving out. We're gonna move Anderson a bit forward, and Cheatham is already deploying here, but not fully ready. Still got Maney and the artillery. Also Smith moving into position. It looks like Wharton is already rallied. At this point it's a good idea to reattach him to Cheatham's division and move forward to restore the morale and be ready for next orders. I think we could use him to again to scout ahead and also to cover the right flank. And also we have still Wheeler in position here on our left with no enemy contact, so that's already also a possible reserve for the battle. And here we see the artillery taking defensive positions automatically on the fence, which is stated here as cover. And we have Adams Brigade with the sharpshooters deployed. And in these buildings we have Patrick Claiborne's troops taking cover, so the reserve is now deployed. And it looks like the Union troops have been pushed forward. They have captured the Bull Lane objective here, and we see some artillery deployed in the tree line. So now that we are moving Buckner to defend the Peters Hill, it may be a good idea to give Anderson the order to attack. And when the order is in, with his forces try to take back the Bull Lane objective and the road that leads to the forest. Okay, we have some enemies visible here as well. Look like Union has reached the hill and is deploying in the position where we had Wharton previously. And to help player keeping up what's happening, the AI commanders will be sending these dispatches. So for example, here we have Buckner's batteries informing that enemy has taken an objective in front of them, and also that Henry Semple is engaged with an enemy which appears to be 1,000 strong. And with the orders to defend, he also states that he will defend if no other orders are received. So we have now fighting commencing here. And Buckner, the division commander, is also reporting that, okay, his division is now engaged and he's going to defend. So everything that's happening here now is happening under the AI. So he's deploying on this side of the creek, deploying skirmish line and trying to stop the enemy onslaught via a Springfield pike. And what we have seen here is there's a screen of skirmishers and at least one infantry brigade, and we have our artillery already opening up. And then we have Anderson here, and the order to attack has already reached them, so we can push them forward. And same thing here, if during this movement they encounter enemies, like in this case they should, because we have visibility or vision of 1st Division artillery here, they will first stop automatically, deploy the attack formation, and then start the movement forward. So basically my left wing is currently operating independently according to the orders I have given. And like we can see in the middle we have a hole in our line, so it could be a good idea to start pushing the reserve up to plug this hole. But currently, because we have the natural obstacle there in between the two divisions, I see this not as a big problem, so let's simply see how the situation plays out. And with Cheatham's division, which is currently not engaged and already in position, catching breath after the march, still a bit tired but getting better. I think it's a good idea to try to get to the other side of Doctor's Creek. So again, Wharton's cavalry, let's detach them because they have restored their morale. It looks like they have some 100 casualties so far, which is quite a lot. So maybe putting them alone in the front was not a good idea, but we have to live with that decision. Okay, and now they're detached. Let's first move them all the way to Dixville Crossroad. And if the forts here are free of enemy, let's start pushing Cheatham forward, so we can use him to flank the enemy and turn their left. Okay, now we see the AI in action. I have Anderson reporting that, okay, his division has made contact with the enemy troops, looks like McCook, and they will attack if no other orders are given. And here we already see the screen of skirmishers moving in to engage the enemies here in the wood line, and what we see of the enemy is that there's at least the artillery unit, and looks like one brigade or maybe two brigades of enemy infantry moving in the forest. At this point, I think it's a good idea to start moving the reserve forward. So let's put Adams, Smith, and Palmer's guns closer to Anderson to block the hole, in case the enemy tries to push his troops through the hole. And here we see the engagement already building up. And if you think about the pace of the game, this scenario started 9 a.m. in the morning, and it's now midday. And what has happened so far is the marching movement and taking contact with the enemy. So this also explains the pace of battle in this game. And moving in front with Wharton, we can see that there's some enemy cavalry deployed here near Doctor's Creek. Looks like a cavalry brigade. And again, probably a good idea to let the cavalry dismount, and in case they're attacked by enemy infantry, they should fight dismounted and in loose order. Let's put them there past Dixville Crossroads. And while the engagement is building up here on our left, we can start pushing Cheatham's division here across this one ford. And of course this is quite risky to put the whole division via one ford, but as it looks like we have the time and space, why not? And we can see the orders being delivered to Wharton, and the lines are showing that orders are already flowing to the brigade, so soon we will have Cheatham moving forward, where we can see the enemy skirmish line already pulling back. We see that our defense have held quite nicely. Perhaps it's a good time to start using a bit more aggressive stance. So let's give them order to attack, because that's the rebel thing to do. A bit about the AI in this game. Currently, like I said, the Union AI is operating under the dynamic AI. This means that they are not following any historical script or anything like that. The AI is doing his own decisions for himself and giving orders to the troops he has. So at this point, I have no idea whether he's trying to attack or defend, but of course each tactic is possible. But I can tell how the AI is thinking. So he's comparing the force he has and the reinforcements he's going to receive in the short run with the forces I have. He also knows the morale of the armies, the experience of the armies, and this is turned into a balance between the armies, and it's shown here on the top of the screen. At this moment, the balance is looking good for me. I'm, of course, the red side as the rebels, and why I'm having the upper hand is due to higher experience of my army, probably higher morale, and the fact that I'm currently holding more of the battlefield's strategic important features. And also what's taken into account here, which is a quite interesting thing, is commanders' personalities on each army. And the commander is all the time considering his position, and if he happens to be a bit more cautious commander, like Buell tends to be, he might try to play it safe, not taking any big risks. And this can lead in the game to situations where, for example, in the peninsula, you have Lee, who's an aggressive commander, and you have McClellan, who is a bit more cautious, even though he has a bigger army with more troops. It's quite possible in this game that Lee, even though he's suffering more casualties by attacking McClellan, he might discourage McClellan and he will start withdrawing, even though if you compare the size of the armies and casualties, it could be that he has the upper hand. So basically that's what I'm doing now, playing the aggressive part. So I'm pushing my troops forward, trying to discourage Buell from continuing forward, and maybe he will decide to turn and run, even though at this moment it could be that he has already more troops on the field than I do. Now I'm ordering Buckner forwards, and looks like the enemy unit here, probably a corps, looks like a corps, is deployed so that the center is at Peters Hill, left flank is on the other side of Doctors Creek, which is of course a good thing for us because it's hard to support them there, and his right is quite strong here in the forest. So Anderson is doing his job, engaging the right of the enemy. We can see losses are quite light at this moment. Ammunition consumption is quite light as well. And then we have here the reserve. Let's put them up a bit more. And then we have Buckner with very light casualties already ordered to move forward. And the interesting part here is now, of course, Chetham's division, who are moving in and forwarding. And if we get them in time deployed here in strength, it's possible to start rolling up the enemy flank. And what we see of the enemy is that we have a couple of infantry brigades, some artillery, but like I said, they seem to be alone on this side of Doctors Creek. Already in Chetham's division we have some casualties, mostly in Wharton's cavalry unit, but also because of the enemy artillery firing at the lead brigades.